You know, this is so bizarre to me. I can't believe that. I mean, you went all the way out there and you did what you set out to do, and we're talking about sex here like it was, you know, buying an ice cream cone.
It is.
It is?
Except it's more meat than ice cream.
It's more meat than ice cream.
But we're both filet mignon.
Now, okay, getting back on the track, if we can, let me just ask you this. I can't imagine, I have some questions about what it's like to shoot one of these things, these films, but also you have this agency. Tell us about the women and men, particularly the women who come in, and what do they do? I mean, how do you audition them?
Well, there's no such thing as an audition sexually, there's an audition mentally. When I was an agent, I was a terror within the industry, and I have been damned within my industry for scaring people out of the business. I would not allow a person into the industry unless they came in there for one reason, and that was to become famous. Not for the money, because they could make more on the street sexually, and not for any other reason except for the glory aspect. They would start out with no ego, and they'd be allowed to develop slowly into the egotistical person that they wanted to be. I have created legends, and in that, I have perpetrated my own immortality.
All right, so give us a legend who walked into your office and tell us about what transpired.
Seika, now probably the queen of the industry, who 4 years ago walked into my office and with her manager husband said she wanted to be into the industry. I waited 3 months before I even booked her into a film where I could maximize her potential. It's a film called Dracula Sucks, which is an R-rated movie now. It's been cut down to an R and shows on cable television. And the X-rated version, Bride of Dracula, hasn't even come out yet. That has the X-rated super hardcore material in it. I used her for the first time in an X-rated scene with the biggest and best of us all, and that's John Holmes, who now is in Los Angeles with assorted other problems that have nothing to do with the X-rated industry, but he will be.
I thought he was acquitted of that charge.
Well, yes, but he won't say what happened, and because of that, we may never see Johnny again.
I want to know what makes a good porn star. I mean, what makes a person good? First of all, Richard was asking about the camera. How many cameras are around when you're shooting?
Up to 3.
Up to 3. And what makes a person good as opposed to not good?
You got to be born hot. There are very few of us that exist. I play flag football on a team in San Fernando Valley. I am not involved in any type of narcotics, including marijuana. I have a drugless, basically alcohol-less life. If that's sleazy, I feel sorry for anybody who thinks I am.
But yet you take the most precious, intimate act and put it on screen, and it's not apparently not of value to you.
It is totally of a value to me. It's also a way of perpetuating my immortality, and that's more valuable.
I don't understand that. You said that before.
Well, what it is, no one seems to understand that I'm in this business for one reason and one reason only, not the sex. Because I've had a lot of that, and it's been a lot of fun, and that's a very private, intimate thing to me. When I perform on camera, I'm a machine, and I'm a very good machine, well-oiled, finely tuned, and one of the best in the business. I can give you what you want in 10 seconds, and nobody else in business can. And what they want is called a money shot, and I can't really get into that. Beyond that, I am not into it for the money, because I'm the strangest animal in this business. I don't really understand money. I grew up on my own after high school. I sold dog food door to door. I went to the probation department, worked as a probation officer. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the glory. I like to see myself on the screen. I like to see people watching me on the screen because I hear them laugh, I hear them sigh, I hear them clap. They applaud me. I have an inferiority complex. I'm aware of that, and this validates my purpose for existence.
You do not have a small ego.
Absolutely not.
Welcome to the show.
My father, Nathan Ross Margold, was, by the time he died, he was a federal judge in Washington, D.C. My father went to Harvard in around 1918, 1919, 1920, and then taught at Harvard. Then went on to become, my father, I guess he taught law of some level. My father was his mentor was Felix Frankfurter, who would later on go on to be a Supreme Court justice. My father got involved with a great deal of civil rights activism in the 20s and 30s, helping Indians get their fishing rights on the Columbia River, the Shoshone tribe, which, by the way, I am because of my relationship to him. He was given honorary Indian chief, I guess, blessings, rights, whatever. I was given the same. I'm known in Shoshone as Heslo. I have a little purse at home, one of the few things of my childhood. I have nothing really of my childhood. I have a picture of me that maybe I was 6 years old. I have a little purse with Heslo written inside of it. I have some pictures of my father. I have nothing else of my childhood. But he went on to become involved in the Hindenburg tragedy while he was Assistant Secretary of the Interior Department. He put the embargo on helium, and no more helium was sold to Germany, so the Hindenburg was loaded up with hydrogen and blew up in Lakehurst, New Jersey. And he also got involved very heavily in the civil rights of minorities, particularly the Negroes, and started to write and prepare what would eventually become Brown versus the Board of Education, which Thurgood Marshall, of course, ran with and became a Supreme Court justice, and that helped the ball start on the integration of education.
Never really answered the question.
Nathan Ross Margold is my father, or was my father, to the extent that I believe he really was. Now, I'm told that I was adopted. I'm not altogether sure I believe that. And the more I learn about Nathan Ross Margold, and the more I learn about my own past, surreptitiously, because I confronted my aunt 5 years after my mother died, and asked my aunt if she were my mother. And she said she wouldn't answer that question. I believe what happened in Washington, D.C. in 1943 or 42, because I was born in October, so maybe December of 42, that my father impregnated my mother's sister, totally agreeing to immediately absolve her of any maternal rights, and then I was born into the Margold family. I just believe that that's how I came about. Things have led me to believe that again. Like I say, I confronted my aunt in 1985, 5 years after my mother had died, because my mother sort of disowned me when I got into the adult entertainment business. We really were never altogether close anyway. I grew up in a series of high-class boarding schools, high-class military schools, very high-class education. Some of it was grammar school oriented, but every time I'd go to a regular public school, but every time I went to a public school, I was so far ahead of everybody else, I kept on skipping levels of it. I went to McKinley Grammar School in Santa Monica, where I spent a couple of years. I went to Black FOXE Military Academy, Ramsey Military Academy, Starr Military Academy, Brentwood, or then Urban Military Academy, and then I was shipped back east for a while and went to two private schools, Cohut and Coville. In between all of that, I had grammar school training, I keep on saying grammar school, public training, but I skipped the second grade and I skipped the sixth grade. Welfare. I have another organization we haven't even discussed called Fans of X-Rated Entertainment, FOXE, which is the first and only organization where you have to pay dues, you only pay them once, $25, to join an organization wherein you admit you watch adult movies. Because, as I've said, and the motto of FOX, if society refuses to admit that it's jacking off, it shouldn't be upset when Congress cuts off its dick. So I created this to make the public, since there's hundreds of thousands, millions of people who watch adult material, nobody will admit to it. So I have an organization now, which has been dwindling, of about 1,300 strong throughout the United States who have joined the organization, and there'll be a show for them that you're welcome to come and cover on February 20th. I haven't decided on the location yet, but we have awards given out, voted for by the fans. They're called the Fan Favorite Awards. And a number of performers have won that award 3 times and can't win ever again. Where we talked about who are my heroes in the business, a lot of the people who have won those awards 3 times and can't win anymore are my heroes. Nina Hartley, Ashlyn Gear, I've had people tell me they're honored to talk to me when they find out that I'm on the other end of the line when they call me. But without them, I wouldn't be me, so I tell them it's an honor for me to talk to them. They made me famous. That card I show is a crock of shit. You know, it's Bill Margold, or God created man, William Margold created himself. It will get a reaction. It's probably the most interesting card you'll ever get, but it's bullshit. I was created by the people who allowed me into their homes, they walked in the screens and discovered me, and now I want to give it all back. It's the dedication that I have to this industry more than anything else to preserve it. And that's why I have a right to criticize it. And that's why it was tough this year the toughest year of my life has just passed. And I think I've been able to overcome the misery that I've gone through. I was brought into the Free Speech Coalition and then the Adult Video Association. I got elected to the board and became its heart, soul, brains, and conscience. But I guess they decided last year they didn't want any heart, brain, soul, or conscience, because I was told by a miserable human being named Kat Sunlove, who is our legislative, whatever the hell she does up in Sacramento, which I think is nothing, that she was having trouble raising money because I was on the board, and if I resigned from the board, they'd be given $100,000 in donations immediately. I resigned because I thought that was for the good of the organization, and I'd never been worth $100,000 in my life, so I thought that'd be sort of a cool way of getting another layer of legendary status. They haven't gotten a cent because of my resignation. And Kat, at that point pressed into service as executive director, was a complete failure at her job, and she now has gone back to Sacramento. I've always felt that it makes no sense to kiss the ass of people who are going to fart in our face. I have very little use for politicians. I don't trust them. I don't want anybody else's conscience on mine. I'm a really pretty altruistic person in that respect, that I don't need to be destroying people's lives for the sake of economic gain or sexual gain. If they come into the industry and can convince me that they're doing it for the glory and immortality, I'll then nurture them along and magnify their glory as best as I can. There's a documentary about me called Sell Me Your Soul, where I've told people, sell me your soul and I'll trade it for immortality. And I can make you famous. I can make a person famous in this business by promotion. So PAW in existence has been part of my life for over 40 some odd years. But it became Protecting Adult Welfare officially in the late, 94 is when I created the organization, and it gained its 501c3 nonprofit status in 97, because it took a while to get it because of the machinations of certain people who were jealous of the fact that I had created it, which we could get into a litany of discussions about people who are my enemies, and I'm not paranoid because these are definitive enemies, but they're unworthy at this point to be discussed. Demise, and I'd always thought that it would be important for the performers to have a place to come and basically talk to me, where I could listen to them and try and help them through their problems. My background is very unique for being in the adult entertainment industry. A lot of it has to deal with growing up in social work settings such as this Del Mar in Culver City, Juvenile Hall, downtown LA as a child, 12 years old, and going back to work at Juvenile Hall in 1969 through 71 as a probation officer. When I came into the X-rated industry, I noticed almost immediately that the adult entertainer had the same psychological makeup as a juvenile delinquent, except they were adults. They were overage juvenile delinquents. So I became known as Papa Bear. Protecting Adult Welfare's logo is a teddy bear. I feel the teddy bear is the first creature, although it's stuffed, that you turn to as a baby and confide in, because it's not going to lie to you, it's not going to talk back, it's just going to simply listen and keep your secrets. And of course, teddy bears also lead to a very important part of life, and that's hugging, because you will hug your teddy bear, and I think it's far more important As I say on the sentiment on the wall of my office, hug is simply a three-letter word, and a very important three-letter word, far more important than sex. But when the people in the X-rated industry are troubled, unhappy, or just are questioning their reasons for existence, they'll come and see me in the Protecting Adult Welfare office, and we'll sit down and we'll talk. And when you come to that office later on in this documentary, you'll see that there's nothing sexual in there. There's no intimation of sexuality. Any pictures on the wall are discreetly covered, because when you come there, you're not coming there to talk about sex. You're coming there to talk about perhaps why you, the performer's life, has gone astray because perhaps of being involved in the adult entertainment industry. Well, first you asked how long Paw's been in existence. Spiritually, Paw's been in existence all my life. From the moment I think that I started creating the groundwork for Protecting Adult Welfare, the day after I came to juvenile hall. I woke up that morning and I was 12 years old, and I went into a dining room situation and noticed that there was a table where only one kid was sitting, and he was talking to his food. And I'd never seen anybody talk to their food before, so I went over and talked to him and made him smile and gave him some of my food. And after that was over, I remember coming out of the dining room into the day room in Unit R, and a counselor, a sir as we called them, walked up to me and said, "Thank you." And I said, "For what?" He said, "For paying attention to that kid." And so the rest of the day I paid attention to the kid. Then I was shipped out to Unit W, and I never saw that kid again. But I believe when I went back to juvenile hall to work, because I lived there for 3.5 years, or 3.5 months, 3.5 months in 1956. And when I left there on October 11th, 1956, to be taken to Vista Del Mar, I cried, and I was dragged down the hall, and I said, "I'll come back." And they never really understood what I meant until I managed to get a job going back there to work. And I, to this day, believe that the counselor or the sir who said thank you to me that morning became my supervisor when I went back there. But he didn't tell me. But he always used to treat me very specially, make sure, although I went back there and broke every rule, and which I've been breaking all my life. So I think I started to help people. That began to rub off on me, and I always was for the underdog, always looking out for people worse off than I was, always wanting to help people. With Protecting Adult Welfare, I had been counseling people in the industry by advising them to be sure of what they were doing when they came into it from the moment I got into it. Called PAW now, the nonprofit organization PAW, Protecting Adult Welfare, which all came from the tragic suicide of Savannah in July of 1994. When Savannah died, I said, that's so much my FOXE award, I said there'd be no more Savannahs. I had already gone through a couple of suicides with Shauna Grant in 1984 and with Megan Lee in 1990, and I really didn't want any more dead kids, because we're such a microcosm anyway that maybe if I created a place for the kids to come to that they could be comfortable at, that they could tell me their problems. And I established an office next to Jim South's, where you're going, called Free Speech 2, which is now going to be known as PAW, which has no sexual inferences at all. It's all teddy bears and candy and tissues, and I very rarely even turn the lights on. And people will come in there and they'll hold a teddy bear and they'll talk to me. And there's something greatly comforting in these things. And if they really want a teddy bear that they hold, they can have it and take it home.
Yeah. Welcome, hi.
Hi, I'd like to know exactly what is your definition of porno, because a lot of people have a lot of different definitions.
Porno is something that rubs you it rubs the right ideas the wrong way. That's what it's all about.
What does that mean?
Well, see, my feeling is that pornography is something, since we are brought up to believe that sex is dirty, porno perpetuates that thought. That's it. But pornographic could also be something, pornographic could be a war. Pornographic could be people shooting heroin into their veins. Pornographic could be snorting coke. It's what you think is the dirtiest thing that exists. And as long as the world continues to think that sex is dirty, we'll make money. When you do accept sex and when you can live with it comfortably, then porno will no longer exist.
And you still said to me in the green room that you think that's happening.
Yes, unfortunately, pornography is becoming a ho-hum situation. The fact that we're here...
A ho-hum $20 billion a year industry.
Yes, but so is cocaine, so is heroin, so is liquor, so are sports, so is organized anything. We have become common denominational, and that's very dangerous.
You had something.
Well, in your own mind, then what you do is not pornographic.
No, what we do is entertain. What we do is turn on. What we do is live out your fantasies.
We were...
Don't you infer that my studio audience watches your scum, right?
They watch you at 11 and they watch me at 11:30.
Now, Bill, in the Bible, referring to pornography, in the Bible it says things pornographic will lead you to hell. Are you prepared for hell, Bill?
Yeah, sure I am. As long as they're serving popcorn, I'll be able to watch my films down there.
Oh, I can't believe it. Yes, they are.
Come on, Bill, let's face it. You're proud of the money you make from this, but you're certainly not proud of the garbage.
But I'm not into it for the money. I'm into it for the glory. I am.
I'll bet you are.
Hold on, Bill, hold on. What you are doing, Bill, is you are not only helping to make America a little sick, but you are also degrading the women of America.
Wait.
What does pornography mean? It means the graphic depiction of women as vile whores. Hold on, Bill. Do you enjoy depicting women in this country as vile whores?
I don't believe that I do.
Oh, come on. Let me tell you something, Margold. You are not the king of porno. You know what you are? You are just a degrading pimp. I'll be right back.